Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in the world you're tuning into the Esports Awards Origins podcast from. Today, I am your host, Trevor Quickshot Henry, and this is the podcast where we speak to your favorite creators, the best professionals in esports, the best players competing, sometimes broadcast, sometimes behind the scenes. And today's guest is one of the more special ones. Over a decade in broadcasting with one of the largest, best, and most exciting titles in the market. A massive fan of reading the Del Toro Quest is in fact where his name comes from. I'm told he has a world record in Mario Kart, and for some reason, he was edgy enough to add an X to his name as a child. It is, of course, Brody Moore, aka Leaf. Good morning or good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Okay. I mean, I shouldn't expect anything less. I'm like, these are usually the questions I get in the first 10 minutes, but you've already answered all of them. You've done your research. You've already hit the ground running. So good stuff. Kudos.
Listen, it is the job. It is something I take pride in. And I'm very fortunate that here on the Origins podcast, I got to speak to a lot of people. You're in like the 50s when it comes to episode number now. We've got tons of history. And the word history is important because we want to know the origin. Where did we come from? If it's your first time listening, we want to know who Leaf was before he got the nickname. Who was Brody Moore growing up? What's your earliest memory of gaming?
Okay. Well, if you want the true answer, ask my mom. We'll get her on here. Reveal a lot. But growing up, it was funny because like for me, I feel like it's been my whole life because it essentially has. I'm old now. You said I'm in the 50s. I thought you were talking about my age because it certainly feels like it. But I think I started gaming really honestly around like maybe 12, 14. And I think it happened because, the Game Boy Color, I think. And then also my stepdad had a Nintendo Entertainment System, good old NES and a SNES. And so I kind of had that like in my world. I was limited to the hours that I was allowed to play. I think I was allowed like an hour every day or something. And so I also did a lot of reading, as you mentioned too, in those early days. But I think it was Pokemon that got me. Yeah, Pokemon Blue, which by the way, very sad. I eventually had someone break and enter into my house and steal. That was one of the things I stole. I had a level 120 muck because I did the Masigno glitch on it. I got the infinite rare candies. Yeah. So that was upsetting. And there's other things, but that was the most important thing to me. And yeah, that was probably my start. And then I got hooked on Call of Duty, I think like everybody else out there eventually. And that kind of ran my like mid-teens to into late teens for Call of Duty before I got into like Smash Bros and stuff like that.
What I love so much about this is it's almost one-to-one parallel with my journey. Same thing. I also had my Pokemon cards stolen as well. I actually used to compete. I used to compete in a Pokemon league. I had a Blastoise deck. Pokemon Blue's the correct answer, the best of the starters. Yep. Let's talk a little bit about your introduction to kind of, let's say, competitive scene, but also how does it run parallel with schooling, right? Like, so what was the plans as you're growing up? It does sound like you're playing games, you're active. Let's say it doesn't define you yet, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, so because I also grew up playing hockey as any good old Canadian does. And I had that as like a side thing. Like gaming was something I would do every once in a while, but for the most part, I was out playing, street hockey with my friends. We're playing sports. Again, with ADHD, I was just, my child doctor said that I had one of the worst cases he had ever seen. So again, bless my mom for putting up with me. I actually apologized to her on her 50th birthday. I'm like, you know what? Thinking back, I was a terror. Thank you. And sorry. And so yeah, I was out a lot, expending energy around the neighborhood. Thankfully, we had a cul-de-sac that we lived on that was nice to be able to play sports and street hockey without having to yell car every 2 seconds. So a lot of sports and physical activity. I eventually got to like parkour and stuff too. But in high school is really where like that. I'm like I was friends with people in a lot of different like cliques. I had a friend in the jock group. I had a friend in like the cool kids group. I had most of my friends though in the like the computer world or the gaming world. We're spending times that we're in programming class together. So that's where I really started to dive into the gaming is like in high school. And that's where the Mario Kart stuff started coming in. Me and my buddy would spend a lot of time playing Mario Kart DS. And I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of it here, but like that's where we set a lot. I think between two of us had about 50% or just over 50% of the world records at the time. And I've looked now, obviously now all of them have been beat, but by not much, by I think like point zero, maybe 1.0 or 2.0 of
Do
a
you know
time
what I
now they've been
love
beaten by.
so much? Do you know what I love so much?
What's that?
This is going to be a really fun interview because nearly identical stories. When I did my
You as
ADHD
well, yeah?
test, I did it in my adult life. I know you look respect.
Okay.
My doctor looked at my results and his response was, "Oh fuck!" That's word for word what he looked. So, regardless, though, I do love the fact you brought up the Mario Kart. I also really like there's a tiny bit of tidbits in how you reflect when you looked it up. So you have looked up the Mario Kart world record. I know this has come up in interviews in the past. That's how I know
Yeah.
about it. So I know you've researched it, or it's been a topic others have brought up. But you can hear that competitive side of you. You know, I'm only been beaten by a little bit. You've still been beaten, but there's that competitive edge.
Yeah.
We'll get to the broadcast work later, but did you have any idea that you were going to work in esports at the time that you're doing these Mario Kart records, at the time that you're
No.
watching Halo TV and MLG? Like, was there any inkling? If not, what was the plan?
No, I think those were imprinting those. Again, you keep bringing up these tidbits. Yeah, we're going like Nardwar on this, like, you know, everything. Oh my God. Yeah, no. So like, I think the edge was imprinted, especially watching G4 TV, watching Halo, with Final Boss, Walshy, Chris Puckett. Chris Puckett is a guy that, like, he's the one I think so many of us modeled ourselves after. In the early days, I know Wavepunk, one of the other RLCS guys, did the same thing. And I think just like seeing that on TV really helped say, like, there's something there. I wasn't thinking I'm going to be doing this or I'm going to be in it. It was when YouTube came out in about 2007 or so. I was on that pretty quick. I've always just been my dad was, I think I got it from him too. He's always been at the forefront of like new emerging technologies. So being on YouTube was just natural right at the beginning. I started doing that for fun and creating stuff. And while trying to figure out my voice, because the early videos, I'm like, hey guys, Liefx here, what's going on? And, super terrible videos. I looked to Chris Puckett that I'd seen on TV. I'd come home from school to see it on TV. And I'm like, I like the way that guy like brings energy or the way he inflects. So I studied his inflections and stuff, but it wasn't for getting into esports. It was from content. And that obviously helped and lay the groundwork for it all. But I think a lot of that competitiveness maybe just comes from ADHD, but also me and my brother, Resistance Fall of Man. I remember we would essentially, again, do speedrunning before we knew what speedrunning was. We found some glitches where you could like wiggle into a wall, get yourself out of the map, and we would try to beat levels as fast as possible. We weren't recording anything. We just found this thing and wanted to do it. So between me and my brother, there was that competitiveness. Then my friend, again, pushing me with the Mario Kart. We would share our ghosts every night. And our goal was to always just beat each other by the next day. And we were, again, not posting these or anything. They were online. Obviously, people could see the leaderboards. But it was always like I just had friends around me that were also competitive. I think that lent me into it, that naturally, when I fell into Smash Bros. Was the real turnaround. That it was where I'm like, oh, I can be in this world now, like not just watching it, kind of like I could be a part of it.
Give me a little breakdown now as well, right? What I really love about the timeline of games that you've just explained and talked about, as well as some of your influences, I think being aware of Chris Puckett at that time is incredible. He's the reason I got into League of Legends. He hired me in 2012. Him personally, and like,
that's so
I
cool.
do. Yeah, exactly. As somebody that will appreciate what that means, yeah, that's for you and me to share.
That's awesome.
You learn about these things. Let's just get a quick timeline. Where's schools? Where is studying? And when do you start hosting these Smash tournaments? Like, what does this timeline look like?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So this is that world. Basically, after high school, I went straight into college. I didn't want to take a break or anything. But I remember back in middle school, me and my friend had promised each other. We said, when we're done university and college and we're graduated, let's go travel Europe. Let's backpack around Europe. And so that was always there since grade 7 and 8. And then once college and stuff came around, my buddy went to university and I went to college for computer programming. But I got partway through. ADHD was a big part of it. It was very hard for me to lock in, but I also I'm like, I like programming, I like creation, but I also don't like being told what to do. I also ODD, so like learning how to deal with that. oppositional defiance disorder. I just, for some reason, get upset when someone tells me something obvious or something that I already know. I'm like, you should know I know that. I eventually realized, of course, people can't mind read. So that helped me get over that. But at the time, it was like, I just didn't like that. So it made it very difficult for me to really commit to the programming stuff. So we get to like year 4 where he's about to graduate. I'm having to take extra classes. I failed a couple of them. I'm doing summer school for it. And I'm like, I'm just not into this. So when he graduated and I still had, I think, one course left to graduate, he's like, I'm done. And I'm like, you know what? We're not putting this off. Let's do it. And we went and traveled, backpacked Europe. This was my early 20s. So 2011, I believe. And we did that. And I never went back and graduated. So I technically just unfinished course there to finish the whole program. And when I got back, I started working. My dad managed a few restaurants. So I started working in those and helping in that space for a few years, for about 3 years, 4 years. I mean, I was already working in them, the hospitality for 11 years, but like I went back to do that. And then someone came up to me. This was during the lockout in 2012 for NHL. They said, hey, I was in the States and I saw these people, they were watching NHL on the TV, but it was bots playing bots. It was just the AI playing each other. No one was playing the game. And people were into it because they just wanted their hockey. Even people that didn't care about video games or esports or anything. In 2012, there were just regular patrons enthusiastically watching video games on their screen. So he said, you should bring video games into the bar. And I thought about it. So I just had friends. We had one of the banquet rooms. We played video games for a little while. I noticed people weren't joining us, right? Like there was no one coming to join us. I'm like, let me pick a game that like is kind of competitive. I didn't realize how competitive. I didn't know the scene existed, but Smash Bros was my pick. Because I remember as a kid just playing on the GameCube at my buddy's house. That's a competitive game. Little did I know there was a very strong grassroots scene behind it. And I got a prize pool from a local game shop. I got them to give $50. I got the restaurant to give $50, $100 prize pool. We had 70 people show up and I did not have enough GameCubes for it. I did not do the bracket right. It was a mess. But that community said, hey, by the way, this is how we usually do it. Here's our rule set. And they actually sat and talked with me. They didn't get mad that I didn't run it right. And to me, I thought that was cool. I'm like, oh, this is a cool like little community that we've got in our region. Again, not realizing it was much bigger than that. And so I started running more with the help of them to the point that I was running the weeklies. I did a monthlies, and then I ran a big event where like Mewtwo King, SFAT, some pros came and flew out too. And that was over the course of a few years.
Holy fuck. Okay. People who don't know Smash, you do not appreciate what this is like. Okay. This time frame, early 2010s, for Mewtwo King to attend a tournament like this, it is the equivalent of Caps from League of Legends going to a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's massive, right? Manisi from Counter-Strike going to a tournament. Okay, this is insane. When I was reading that you were doing Smash, I did not know that you weren't aware of the scene. I didn't realize that this was
because I've not really actually said that. Yeah,
an accidental. So this is incredible. I have an unhealthy relationship with all esports, and I would highly recommend to anybody if you want to learn more. There's a documentary on YouTube by Something Shadow, The Amazing Shadow, and it's just called Smash Brothers Documentary.
Yeah,
a few million views. It'll tell you about the history. It'll tell you about Ken and the first, like the birth of the first few gods and Mango's in the Hungry Box. It's amazing. So I know now how your journey to broadcasting begins, right? We've talked about your being ahead of the curve on like awesome games done quick and speedrunning and world records. We've talked about your content creation journey that starts as soon as YouTube begins. We've talked about hosting tournaments. You're building up this plethora of skills that will ultimately lead to RLCS in 2016. But I got about a 4-year gap. So let's fill in the blanks for me. Okay. How did the journey to broadcasting begin and what was your first opportunities?
Yeah. So the basis, so 2012 was around the start of the Smash Bros stuff. And then I did that honestly for the main stuff for a few years. So me and some friends, they were helping me out. Steven, Zach, Sarah, shout out. Like they kept everything together. I'm just this visionary with ADHD running around. And they made sure that I stayed sane and kept things in order. And they would help me just organize and move stuff around. Eventually, another buddy, Joey, jumped on, and he was the lifter. He would bring all the CRT TVs around because they're heavy, and I got like 15 of those. I still have them in the basement in storage somewhere. And so yeah, we're moving those around, and we're just doing these events for fun. We say, hey, what about an esports cafe or a bar or something? And so we actually lease a place and we start renovating it. Unfortunately, after about 6 months, we were running some events out of it, but after about 6 months, we realized the landlord hadn't been honest about some things and wasn't fixing some issues like leaks in the roof that was causing problems for us. So we eventually got out of the lease, and that dream died. But that is around 2014. 2014, 15. So near the end. So, we got a couple of years of Smash. I'm just working in restaurants. It's just a thing I'm doing. It's for fun. There's no thing to make it bigger. But I did in that time mess with the idea of commentating, because I'm like, well, I'm doing YouTube stuff for fun. What about commentating? It seems fun what they're doing. But I very much don't like to jump into a space that I don't wholly know. So I didn't feel comfortable commentating Smash yet, because I'm like, I don't think I can do it justice yet, right? Like I think there are better people at it. So I didn't want to try yet. So around the end of 2014 into 2015, we're having those issues. Mid 2015, Rocket League launches it was in July 7th, 2015. I start playing it, and I'm like, you know what? This plays like hockey. I love this. And I was decent at the game. Back then, the highest rank was platinum, and I was in gold. So platinum, I think, was like top 100. So I'm okay at the game. A lot of people here are bad. They don't realize this is like hockey. Maybe this is the one I can commentate. Go about a month or two into it. I'm trying to still do this esports bar thing. Then that's when it falls apart. So Rocket League's out. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can commit more time to just doing commentary. So I find some tournaments online. I'm like, there's got to be tournaments. Like, this game is built for competition. And so I start commentating just with some small. VVV was the series that I started with. Met some people, and then that brings us to Rocket League. So before the RLCS. But that brings us like to that 6 month period or whatever before that RLCS starts.
I mean, that is such an incredible story, because you've inadvertently, or maybe like on purpose, developed all of these skills and experimented with all of these elements that ultimately make you a fantastic broadcaster and commentator and content creator. You understand what league ops is like. You understand what broadcast is. You understand production. You understand the business side of things. Like, there's so many of these supplementary skills that a lot of broadcasters actually don't have. A lot of our contemporaries and our peers. Before we dive into the craft that you developed, what was that feeling of the first RLCS broadcast in 2016 when you're like,
okay,
holy shit, this is real?
Yeah. So again, as you said, I was building these skills, and I think it's actually funny because you don't think about it at the time. And I actually, within the last month even, started realizing that any of the hobbies I have aren't a waste of time, because with ADHD, I'm always trying to think of the next thing. I'm like, I got to get to the next thing. I'm wasting my time. I got to get to the next thing, do the next thing. But I realized all the things I was doing for fun were actually building the skills. And it's funny, I actually only came to that realization recently, and that they are useful, and I can dedicate time to these because they could apply in another scenario. And but yeah, anyways, that was a digression. The first broadcast, I had experience with running an event and that, but the scale of the RLCS was different. So when they called me. Actually, it was funny. It was Golden Boy that put together the talent team. He really pushed for grassroots, which I very much appreciate. And I think is cool. I love seeing familiar faces cross esports, but like, it was cool to have a talent team that came from the game, because it was so different too, right? That it was nice to see that. So being brought in, I didn't have the full scale of what a production like that would look like. He called me, said, "You're in." I remember I just finished a shift. I had missed his call and I panicked. Then when I called him back, he didn't answer right away. Finally, we get on a call, and I'm just panicking this whole time. All he says is, "You're in," because he had already talked to me before. And I'm like, holy crap, this is crazy. This is cool. I'm thinking I'm doing this from home still. In all honesty, I didn't realize that we're going to fly us out. He says, when can you fly out? I say, I'll have to check with work, but I guess I could just get someone to fill it. He's like, how about next week? Can you fly out? I'm like, sure, I'll go talk to work. I tell them, hey, I'm going to go do this thing in LA. I'm going to be gone next week, and I don't know if I'm coming back. I never came back. Thankfully, they had been just hiring someone else to fill in that position anyways, or to supplement it. But yeah, I never came back. We get to the broadcast, and seeing the people I had talked to online in person, obviously, was a really cool experience. Like you don't really see, everyone was much taller. Like I'm tall, but I was surprised how tall everyone was. That was one of the first things I remember, Lawler specifically. And we get there, and the first actual moment we go live was so nerve-wracking. Most nerve-wracking moment of my life will still come a few years later, but it was so adrenaline inducing, right? You kind of just forget what you're doing for a bit, especially with all the new things. I remember Golden Boy training us to get used to someone talking to us. He actually just went into production. He's like, sometimes you'll have an open mic by accident from production. So we just started reading a book while we were trying to commentate to get us used to this. Yeah.
It's one of these things that literally nobody really can understand unless you've been this right. Because it's one thing to have a headset on, somebody on Discord talking to you. It's another to have that situation while you're live streaming in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. I also really, really love having interviews with other broadcasters like this, because the story that you tell and the questions that you answer, they cover so many of my questions already, but I do want you to do another. No. This is not criticism or feedback, but you're literally like jumping a tiny bit ahead. The one thing I want to ask about is, you've got this memory. You're now on the broadcast. This now starts to become a bit of a thing. Did you know if you wanted to be a host or an interviewer or an analyst or a commentator? Like, for that first year, you've only been respectfully broadcasting or doing commentary for maybe 12 months. Right?
Super green.
So how did you discover, first of all, the first role you committed to? How did you grow the skills and add on the additional ones? Because over the decade, you've done pretty much everything now. Yeah.
So I think the commentary just kind of came out, because like in my head, that's the thing you do when you get into esports as a broadcaster, right? Like someone talking about video games, you commentate. So it was just not, that's what I jumped in with VVV, the whole grassroots scene with Rocket League before the RLCS became a thing. And so I was just doing commentary, and not again, I didn't know the whole scope of everything. So I wasn't also realizing that there were drastic differences between these different roles when it comes to being a host or like a stage host, interviewer, commentator, analysis, desk analyst, whatever. They all have their own nuances to them and things you're looking for. And so no, I didn't really say like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be this. I wanted to experiment. I like trying new things. One of my favorite things was being on the broadcast and asking the producer and everyone what their day-to-day, what are you doing there? What software are you using? How's it? And so to me, just learning was a big part of it. So when I started, it was like, okay, I enjoy this very much. And actually, they eventually did ask me to move to a host role. And I was actually hesitant at the beginning because I'm like, I really enjoy play-by-play and just yelling over the game, being a part of those moments. That's super special, just to like let your emotion out for something you're extremely excited about in the moment that it's happening. So that was a very important thing for me, that I was afraid that I would lose by moving to a different role. I messaged Golden Boy again and I asked for his advice. I'm like, should I try host role? He said yes, absolutely. In terms of like for job stability as well, that is a more flexible role. Like you can move around to different broadcasts and shows. So for flexibility, it's a good move. And then I also, again, that curiosity, I'm like, you know what? I want to try something new. So I was open to the role. And then, of course, I got moved a few more times around. In my head, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm bad at all of them. They're still trying to find me which one I need to be in.
The exact opposite. The exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. There's there's nuances obviously to each of the different roles and how to get the most value and how to really excel in them. But when you do have somebody as confident and as great at telling stories as you are, one of my questions is normally like, okay, well, how do you keep momentum? How do you develop your energy? How do you keep like focus for a decade doing things? I know all the answers. I've heard you for half an hour. ADHD plus passion and just frankly being invested. So I'm going to flip it on its head.
Okay.
How do you control yourself and keep focused when you have to learn these new things?
Great question. I don't even know if I have an answer for you. Yeah, but I'm a broadcaster, so I'm going to say something at least here. I would say the biggest thing recently has been my partner. Like, she's been helping a lot in terms of just scheduling or reminding me, saying, "Hey, you've got this thing coming up," or she knows like when I'm writing or scripting stuff that I need to lock in, because if I'm thinking about another thing, I'm not in this moment now. So I have to close my door. I put on it's like binaural wave. It sounds like theta 6 hertz sounds, just so I just blocks out any kind of other stimuli that can get into my brain. And I just start writing. But I can't also be thinking I have something coming up today. I have to pretend there's nothing else in my life right now except this thing. So that's the only true way for me to actually lock into a thing, is that is the only thing that exists. But if I do have something come up, I need someone to pull me out of that trance and get me out of that space. So she's helped a lot with that. As I got older, so when I was 18, I said, I don't want to take meds anymore. Depression was hitting me really hard. That was, when I was trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in college and stuff too. So I said, no more meds. I've been on my whole life. I want to just try to figure out my life. So I figured out my own systems over the course of my 20s. And I realized I was still hitting limits. I wasn't getting the things done that made me like my own hobbies, the things I wanted to do. So I started meds again, and that's helped a lot. It doesn't, just silver bullet solve everything, but it definitely helped me use the systems I had already built a lot more efficiently. So that, I would say, is my answer of locking in. But when it came to like, okay, I'm learning this new thing, like hosting or whatever, I think it was natural. Like I'm like, I want to do this. So it was easy. And especially with ADHD, when you're learning a new thing, you're getting those quick dopamine hits. You're learning, if you look at the Dunning-Kruger line, it's like you're learning a lot quick. But then there's a fall off. It's the same kind of drop of like those plateaus of what you're learning come a lot fewer and less frequently in between. So it becomes easy for ADHD people to pick up a hobby, do it for 2 weeks, and then stop as a result. But I think because this was like there was a social aspect
more than a
to
hobby.
it.
Yeah, it's more than a hobby, and also it's even though it's the same, it's different every time. Even though it's conceptually, philosophically. I want to say thank you so much, by the way, for being so vulnerable in that moment, because I want to double down and just stress this. The question was like, how do you slow down? And I think it's very apparent to anybody who's listened to an interview, maybe met you in life, that ADHD is definitely there. And I say it respectfully and lovingly.
No,
okay?
It's true.
But as somebody that also suffers, and I also have had depression and dealt with it, for me, antidepressants plus therapy, the two things together, because when you said you learned your own systems in your 20s, you can have medicine to treat a chemical imbalance or something, but that doesn't help unless you know what to do with it, what to do with the time.
Yes. Exactly.
You have to have both. And whether it's therapy, whether it's gym, whether it's whatever the system is, like a system is important, So I really just wanted to like take a second to say thank you for that. It's a topic that I don't get to explore or talk too much about. This is not the podcast to dive deeper on that one though. But it is super, super appreciated, because I want you to tell me what 10 years of broadcasting means as succinctly as you can, because we want to talk about some of the other topics. No. Because the podcast is not actually about your 10 years of career. What I want to know is, what does it mean to you? You are one of, if not the voice of Rocket League from season 1 all the way around the world. Like, what does it mean to Brody to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I also, super humbling to be honest. Like it's something that I think a lot of people could probably take in and take it the wrong way. And I'm glad that I've had such incredible people around me to um, consistently keep like an empathetic approach, keep the egos in check. All of my coworkers, my co-casters, everyone that's around me, we're so incredibly open with each other. I've heard horror stories in the esports world of talent and biting at each other's heels and that. And we have such an incredible team that, again, I would say Gibbs is the voice of it. I would say Stax is the voice of it. I'd say Wavepunk's the voice of it. I'd say Jorby's the voice of it. There's so many incredible talent that when I think Rocket League, those voices are synonymous. Those names are synonymous with it. And we do that to each other. Like we always are building each other up. Wavepunk brought it up. Well, I've learned so many lessons. This is the answer. It's like, I've learned so many lessons. Those 10 years have been an incredible team building exercise or friendship building exercise, and appreciation for the things that I have around me. That's what it's really taught me, because I know not a lot of people will have those support systems or those people where we have arguments all the time, but there's always a resolution, or there's always an acceptance that if we can't come to a resolution, that we can live with differences, because we understand there isn't one perfect way to live life. So I think that constant push for each other is just, it's made me appreciate who I'm keeping around me, because so many people offer so much value. And I started to really see the value in other people's stories. I mean, kind of what we're doing here today is like, it's been hard for me to not ask you questions. It's been hard for me to be the one talking, because there's things you brought up. I'm like, I want to talk about that too now, because we all have so many incredible things to give. And I think that value, going to live events and seeing the fans who are know just as much as a lot of us. They might not have the skills to broadcast or want that to do that, because it's not in their realm of comfortableness, but they still care about it just as much. And being in that environment with other people has been an incredibly blessed feeling, I guess. And the fact that it's been 10 years, every year I kept saying, when I first started it, the first year, I'm like, this will be a fun year. That was my thought. This will be a fun year. And then they did another year. And every year since then, I've been thinking this will be a fun year. I'm going to make this the best year.
I call bullshit. This will be one year. The implication being it's kind of, it might end. It might go. At what point are you like, I'll do this as long as there's something, as long as there's an RLCS.
I will keep doing this. I don't want it to end.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, like, I live with the expectation I won't get it again. And I think it's just to make sure I don't, like, I think there's twofold to it. One, I just with depression, it's easy to get down on yourself. It's gotten better over the years, but it's very easy to not accept the growth that you've had, or see it, right? And so that's part of it. And then the other part of it is just keeping expectations. If I do lose it, I want to be mentally prepared for it. So I think I've always just had it in the back of my head, like, okay, it'll be one more year. This will be a fun year. Again, no, I want to keep doing it. I would love to do this the rest of my life.
Understand. No, I understand. I understand. I'll say this as well. I really appreciate the call out there in terms of, like, especially when I speak to other broadcasters or content creators, the desire to dig deeper and talk for longer. It's kind of hard to fight that urge. But look, maybe you can bring back Liefx Lounge and maybe we can have a conversation there, right? That'll be an aside.
Yes.
In case you didn't. Yeah, and listen, I did my research.
I actually thought yesterday, I'm like, man, I want to talk to people again.
It's been a while.
Topical.
But listen, let's dive into this, because one of the other like kind of topics and themes, because we kept this like quite an intimate conversation in terms of personality and sharing. Let's talk about how important is the connection to the community. You talked about how fans are knowledgeable, and let's be frank, there's going to be a lot of your fans and viewers who would kick your ass in a game. Like, Rocket League skill set is so high.
And they do.
So let's talk about that, both personally and professionally. What does it mean to have that connection to the audience?
Yeah, I think it's important, just to keep yourself in check. I'm just someone that loves. I love hearing other people's stories, and again, that's why my podcast had existed, because I wanted to sit down. It was a good way to, like, practice my interviewing skills, since that was the role I've more found myself in live events now. But it was also just a good way to dive into topics that we don't actually get to talk about a lot of times, and listen to other people and their journeys, like again, what's happening here. And I just totally sidetracked myself. Can you remind me of the question?
Absolutely fine. It's talking about the community. No, you're good. You're good.
Yes,
Because
okay.
this has been what, honestly, I'm really not joking. This really has been one of the more emotionally based answers questions, as opposed to, facts and dates and checks. So hearing how you're talking about the community, hearing how you connect this, but like it's connection to the community.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry, that happens. You know this.
It's good. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you.
So I think it's really cool because so many people, one of the things I realized with like streaming in general is how many people are connecting to that as some sort of either escape or to learn stuff, to feel a connection. Obviously, I think having real connections is going to be always better than parasocial connections. But with streaming in that, you can kind of get closer to those. And for some people, they might be going through a hard moment in life. And I've had people say this where they just had it on the background. They didn't interact. It was just having someone be around while they dealt with stuff. And 6 months later, they're like, hey, I've been lurking for the past 6 months. You helped me just kind of get through this, and you've been a big part of that. And hearing that and hearing someone succeed and come through the other side is always an incredibly rewarding feeling. Knowing that someone is able to manage a problem or an obstacle in their life, because everything we've all been through moments that feel extremely overwhelming, and be able to see someone and somewhat be a part of that is really cool. So I think that's why it's important. Also, if you're looking just from there's so many other reasons to do it too. I mean, there's just the fact of keeping up to date with stuff. What are people talking about? What's the vibe? How's everyone feeling about this specific team? How are you guys feeling about the game in general? Where are we as a community is a good reason to do that. Whether you're just, again, looking on social, like text-based things like Twitter or Instagram or whatever. You don't have to be making content out of it, but just keeping up, reading Reddit, I think is good for that reason too. What's the vibe checking? But for me, the streaming part of it comes for the personal connection. And then the content side of things is a creative outlet that I think is important that everyone has. Because as much as I like talking about Rocket League all the time, I also like other games, and feeling like you're stifled or stuck into a rut, like you're only allowed to talk about these things or create this thing that's someone else's product. Like the RLCS is, I'm not the top lead on creative. I have input, but I'm not the product lead, right? So I think it's important to have something that you control, that you can creatively output, to make sure that you're not getting in a rut and losing.
But also it's really important to understand that even though you can love Rocket League and even though you can love the game and broadcasting and watching it, it is still work. It is still the job, right? So when you then look at like Mario Kart and you look at world records, you look at awesome games done quick, that type of vibe, speed running, that sort of thing. I play a bunch of roguelikes. I have a Steam Deck. It travels everywhere with me. I took a look recently. I got over 600 hours of Slay the Spire, and now Slay the Spire 2 has just dropped. I already have 14 hours, dude. Like I'm on Ascension 3, I think it is. So a couple of the characters. I still suck with the Ironclad. Completely irrelevant though. But my point is, it is important to have those things, right? So let's talk about this very quickly. How do you separate personal and professional? Because it sounds to me like you commit fully to everything. So where does that line come in?
Yeah, no, I think that's been in its question I've been trying to answer. How do I the only reason somewhat answer that I have would be, I guess recently I've tried to tell myself, because I have such a structured day, I'm hitting my goal. I laid out goals. I think that was the biggest thing. I laid out goals for every month. What do I want to hit? One video here on this channel, one video on this channel, this stream or whatever. If I hit those goals, or looks like I'm going to hit those goals, I am allowed, after a certain time of the day, I usually set it like 8:00 p.m., that I'm allowed to disconnect. Now, it's very hard to do that still. It is very hard to tell myself that I'm allowed to sit down and play a video game right now. I should be writing, or I should be researching. I should be doing this thing. And it is hard to separate that, especially where my play space is my workspace often. So that mental disconnect is difficult. So I'd say I don't really fully do it properly. Um, but that's my best answer is that, okay, after 8 or one day on the weekend, I can sit there and I am allowed, it's not a waste of time. If I want to sit down and play a game. I played Dragon's Dogma last Sunday, Dragon's Dogma 2 for 7 hours straight. And that felt amazing. But it was something that initially I'm like, I can't do this because I'm a failure if I do this.
So, dude, I have so many things to talk to you about. Childhood implications, and I have hours of therapy unpacking this. And like this, I will say this: the self-awareness to even be able to reflect on it is huge. That's half of the battle won already. And actively, when you start looking every day, it is a challenge. It is a challenge because you have to allow yourself to do these things. I want to change gears a little bit, right? Because we've talked about the origin of so many different things. We've talked about the origin of how you separate work from play, the origin of broadcasting. We so lightly skipped over your professional career, and I really want to stress, in case you don't know, Rocket League esports, like Leaf has been around since the beginning at every event, traveled, has done every role on the broadcast, and is one of the OG GOATs of Rocket League. So I want to congratulate you for that. And I want to ask you, on a decade of broadcasting, in 2036, you're still going to be talking nonsense, probably about Rocket League. 2046 is going to be happening. What will the legacy that you leave behind be when fans think about Brody Moore and Leaf?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, the complicated answer is that you can always have an idea of what you want to leave behind, but the way people actually perceive you is never up to you. It's up to them. But what I would like, and what would be cool if they did, was I want people to listen to each other. And if I can convince people that we can have a better world just by, even if you disagree at the end of it, just by actually listening to the other person, then I think we can have a better world. I think you can solve so many problems, even if someone is like quite in the morality of the space you live in the culture you live in, morally, they are incorrect. They're doing the wrong thing right now. It's an objective measure compared to your culture, and they're doing the wrong thing. You can still listen to them and understand how they got to that point to better dissect how they can reflect on themselves. If you don't talk to them and don't ask them, you'll never understand how they got to that point. Nobody sees themselves as the bad guy in their own story. Maybe there's one. I highly doubt it, though. Someone is generally
unless you're
justified.
Darth Vader. Unless you're Darth Vader,
fair. Okay.
like you don't see yourself. No, I agree.
Yeah.
And I apologize about making that. So I think it's a beautiful sentiment. Start by listening, follow up by asking questions.
Yeah.
And will they be saying Leaf made me do that?
That's what I would like. I'd like people to think this is someone that will give me their time and listen to me and like listen to me. I mean, and that reflects in my interview style now too. I used to bring cue cards up with me when I did interviews, and I realized I'm not actually listening to what they're saying. I'm just lining up the next question, and I think it reflects in their answers because they're looking at me glance at my cue card. They feel like they're not being listened to. I stopped bringing cue cards up with me. The only one I'll do it for is like a grand finals, like they win grand finals, worlds, whatever. Because I'm like, I have definitive questions here that I'm going to ask.
The point you're making, you see, this is again, this will go back to how do you separate with play. The point you're making is beautiful and elegant. It makes perfect sense. You don't need to then micro every single thing and justify every time you do have a cue card. Like there's so much ADHD coming out in that one moment. But I have spent a lot of time in therapy reviewing that, but I do love it. I really do love it. And I also think you'll know this as well. You know, we came in with a significant number of topics that we can talk about. We have a goal, but I'm really happy to obviously let Leaf know, but all our viewers as well. I've abandoned more than half of what the plan was coming in because I chose to do that because I've threaded in the questions where I can, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the direction that we have gone, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the depth that we've hit. Like it's 40-ish minutes, dude, and when you stop and you walk away, you're like, "Whoa, look at all we covered." So with that in mind, what is the origin of your next steps? What is Leaf up to next week, next month, and for this next year?
Yeah, I think my goal right now is to continue to hone my storytelling skills. I spent today actually coming to I think a massive revelation in storytelling, in how I want to construct my stories. So I want to keep telling stories. I want to continue to look at myself and say I can play and continue enjoying video games. Part of that whole sentiment I think everyone has about video games suck nowadays is like I think there's part of that. I think there's definitely some bad systems in games now that are just there to exploit your dopamine. But I also think it's partially on us. I think we've stopped exploring the digital spaces that artists are giving us. And I want to share how we can appreciate those digital spaces again, and appreciate the art that these developers are putting in front of us. And that's what I want to do. So the next few months or whatever is me not being afraid to talk about the things I want to talk about. I don't want to be afraid to be stuck into just talking about Rocket League. My other major community is Star Citizen. I don't want to just talk about Star Citizen. I want to talk about the stories in gaming that I want to talk about. So that's my focus, is like creating pieces I care about for YouTube, wherever it is, and continuing just to do my streams, connect with the audience, and have fun with Rocket League at the live events, because we've got some incredible events.
What are the channels? How do we find you on these different streams and social platforms?
The Liefx everywhere. It's terrible branding. It looks like Liefx. I spelt the name the wrong way, but it's because of the book you mentioned at the beginning, and I'm sticking with it. The X was there just to differentiate, and not realizing it looks like Liefx. If you can't remember it,
you know what I love
Liefx.
so much? I love so much. I changed. I had a 1 and a 0 in my nickname. I had to drop it for exactly the reasons you did. After 12 months, I'm like, I see where this is going, and I'm gonna change it. I also just started doing some research into like a HOTA setup for Star Citizen as well. Again, we don't have the time. We don't have the time.
Purples, VKBs. Okay, we can't talk about it.
One last thing. Obviously, because I'm the host, I like to do quick fire questions with quick shot to wrap up the conversation.
And I'll be quick,
I promise. Listen, whether you answer with one word, one sentence, or one paragraph, I'll adjust to you. But you're going to feel the intensity shift just a little bit, right?
Okay, let's do it.
So let's start with a simple one. Your favorite Rocket League moment that you ever witnessed?
Oh, I'm going to be cliche. I'm sorry. Season 5, Justin. I was on the floor standing beside Scrubkilla when that happened. We were going to go up. He was going to give the medals, I believe, and I was standing behind it. Stax has a video somewhere on his Twitter of me standing there with Scrubkilla, and then both of us popping off, and I just ran. I did the whole thing of I couldn't contain the emotion, and I started running across the floor. That's probably, one of my best.
I love this. You literally broke the microphone. What was the hardest match you've ever had to cast?
Hardest match I've ever had to cast. You know what? I'm going to have to go with the one where my voice was given out season 2. I don't think we did the best job of it, but we did the best we could. Season 2 with Lawler, grand finals. Our voices were dying. We had someone bringing us tea literally every 5 minutes. My belly started hurting from the amount of like throat coat and stuff that I was taking. Voice is dead so hard. Yeah, that one.
Self-control with your energy is definitely something you had to learn. About 45 minutes ago, you told me that you had one of the most nerve-wracking moments on broadcast, but you didn't tell me what that moment was. What was it?
Yeah, okay. And this actually was close for others. We're going back to season 5. This was the first time they brought me back. I hadn't been there for the whole season because I had visa issues, and being Canadian, I just couldn't get it for that whole season. But they said, hey, we want to bring you back. We're in London over here, so you can come to this event. And they're like, but we need you to stage host. Oh boy, I've never done that before. Right before walking up there, I realized I've done rehearsal. I've scripted something for a minute of time to talk about. But I'm like, what if I forget? Sometimes I have a moment where I blank. I don't know what I'm saying next. And I start again in my head. My adrenaline started spiking, and I started panicking to the point of like I don't want like anxiety out the roof. I don't want to do this anymore. And I walked up on that stage, and that's when everything changed, because I realized that I do have someone to lean on. You know, it's not a co-commentator. It's not a host. It's the audience. And they backed me up. The second that they started chanting, I realized I could give some space to breathe. And I had that moment. They're a part of the show as much as any of us on the stage were. So yeah, but that moment, it was brutal emotionally.
I love it so much. And what would be your dream Rocket League Grand Final? Any team, any era, they fight this weekend.
Oh, the dream. So you say dream grand final like with team?
Yes.
Oh, this is so hard. I mean, like, okay, do we say peak Dignitas versus, like, do we say Turbos? Like, do we pick all the best? Does it have to be a team that exists?
Yeah,
or can I
go,
make up a team?
Go with teams in history. Go teams in history.
Okay, teams in history. I would have to say, oh, this is so tough. It's more of that I want to see. I just want to see two players play together. Honestly, that's the thing.
Tell me what that is. Tell me what that is. Okay, you're the two players you want to see side by side.
I want Vatira and Zen, but their orgs are never going to let them separate from their orgs, so that's never going to happen. But I want them on the same team.
We're not predicting things. We're not making reality. Changing gears. Awesome games done quick. When will you cast or participate or set a record?
To set a record. Do you know how old I am? I don't know if I'm setting any records anymore. But yeah, I would love to do it. I did. They had Rocket League at an ADGQ one time, and I did kind of commentate as like I was explaining some mechanics as the commentator did their thing. So I hopped in and helped with that. So I would love to do that again anytime. I should probably take initiative.
Yeah, which you definitely does. Who's your favorite Smash character to play?
Oh, you're gonna hate me. I'm a Jigglypuff main.
Moving on, a fellow caster that you love working with.
A fellow person I love working with. Oh, I talked about this earlier. I genuinely love every single person on our team, on our talent team. The answer is all of them. But if I have to take it outside of that, to give it one person I really love working with is my friend Doyle. I got to shout him out. He's helped me. We've recorded so much stuff in Star Citizen. His laugh is so contagious. He is so loving. He's such an incredible person to have around. He's traveling around now in a van doing like drone surveys around the US right now. That's his job. He's opening his door up now to sunsets like out of this van. It's really cool life, but I don't get to hang out with him as much anymore. And I really, really miss him, but he's the guy. Yeah.
That I love so much. The following questions are yes or no, no context allowed. Is Rocket League the hardest esport?
Yes.
Will Liefx Lounge make a comeback?
Yes.
Have you heard Brody Quest?
No.
Will you listen to Brody Quest after this interview?
Yeah.
One last question will be, if you could nominate any person to join me for the next episode of the Esports Awards Origins podcast, who would it be and why?
Oh man. Okay. Why? The thing is, I don't. You have so many people on now. Let's see. I'm going to have to give it to. Oh man, I'm immediately just thinking, obviously, about all of my co-casters.
Absolutely fine. Listen, this happens when I speak to Counter-Strike people. They nominate Counter-Strike people. When I speak to
have you had Stumpy?
I don't believe that we have. I haven't, but I'm going to add it to the list because I don't think our other hosts have either.
I'm okay. Stumpy. He's one of our like Stumpy Goblin. He's one of the European broadcasters for the RLCS. I would say Stumpy. He's a fun guy to have on. Very quick-witted, very clever, and just fun to talk to.
Noted. I've written that down. What's something that's going to become a challenge for me in the future? We're approaching like a lot of episodes very quickly. I'm going to have the database open for this because, as you'll know, in the heat of the moment, finding a name that you don't remember is kind of challenging. I will say this. Thank you so much. Brody, Liefx, if you were. It has been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed my time. I will say this as well for anybody that wants to search Brody Quest on YouTube. It is a beautiful, beautiful song that lives rent-free in my head and has done since this came out. It's just a fun thing about Adrian Brody, or now today, it'll be Brody Moore. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a lovely day.
Dude, no, thank you so much. This was incredible. I'm glad that we actually got to sit down after crossing paths sort of all the time and actually chat. I appreciate this so much. This was so much fun.
It really was a lot of fun. And there's actually a lot of parallels in both our mental states as well as our professional interests and paths. Thank you. I'm going to say goodbye to Mr. Leaf. And as we do so, I'll say goodbye to everybody who has watched this episode of the Esports Awards Origins podcast. I was your host, Quickshot. He was RLCS superhero, Liefx. And of course, we have an entire plethora of guests that I have mentioned several times. There's a playlist somewhere here on YouTube. Go find somebody else to listen to, and I'll see you on the next episode of Origins.